The Marine Corps Marathon is not for the faint of heart. 26.2 miles through Washington, D.C., Arlington, and along the Potomac River. It's known as the People's Marathon because there's no prize money, no sponsorships, just thousands of runners, many of them active duty, military, and veterans, testing themselves against the course and their own limits. Every October, when the leaves turn and the air gets crisp, they gather to run, to remember, to honor. Registration for the 2023 marathon opened in March. Within hours, all 30,000 spots were filled. Among those registered was a man named Thomas Bradley, age 76. Address: Richmond, Virginia. On the military affiliation, he checked the box for veteran. On the branch, he'd written USMC. And under how many marathons have you completed? He'd written a number that made the registration clerk do a double take: 49. Tom showed up to the starting line on October 29th, 2023 at 6:30 a.m. It was cold, maybe 45 degrees. The sun hadn't risen yet. Thousands of runners milled around, stretching, jogging in place, adjusting their shoes and race bibs. Most were in their 20s and 30s, fit, athletic, wearing high-tech running gear with moisture-wicking fabrics and GPS watches that tracked every heartbeat. Tom wore an old gray Marine Corps t-shirt with the eagle, globe, and anchor faded from years of washing. Navy blue running shorts that had seen better days. White New Balance sneakers that were at least 10 years old. And on his head, a red USMC baseball cap. He was thin, wiry. His face was deeply lined, and his white hair stuck out from under the cap. He stretched slowly, methodically, the way someone does when they know their body doesn't forgive carelessness anymore. Near him, a group of 6 young Marines stood together. They were active duty. You could tell by their haircuts, high and tight. Freshly shaved, they wore matching black shirts with MCRD Paris Island printed across the chest. They were in their early 20s, muscular, confident, talking loudly, joking. One of them, a lance corporal named Jake Morrison, noticed Tom, nudged his buddy. "Yo, check out Grandpa over there." His friend, Corporal Dylan Hayes, looked over, grinned. "Dude, is he seriously running this? Man, he's gonna have a heart attack at mile 2. Another Marine, Private First Class Marcus Chen, laughed. "Bro, someone should tell him this isn't a charity walk. This is 26 miles. Jake raised his voice slightly, not quite yelling, but loud enough for Tom to hear. "Hey, Pops, you sure you're at the right event? Senior Center's that way." He pointed in a random direction. The group burst out laughing. Tom glanced over, didn't say anything, just went back to stretching his hamstrings. Dylan walked a few steps closer. "Seriously, sir, no disrespect, but this course is brutal. Maybe sit this one out. Save yourself the embarrassment." Tom straightened up. Looked at Dylan. His voice was calm, even. "Appreciate the concern, son. I'll be alright." "Alright? You look like a strong wind could knock you over." Tom smiled faintly. Looks can be deceiving. Jake laughed again. "Alright, old man. Your funeral. Just don't blame us when they're scraping you off the pavement at mile 5. Tom didn't respond. Just adjusted his cap and walked toward the starting corrals. The young Marines went back to their conversation, already forgetting about him. At 7:55 a.m., the national anthem played. 30,000 runners stood at attention, hands over hearts. The Marine Corps silent drill platoon performed a rifle routine on stage. And then, at exactly 8 a.m., a cannon fired. The marathon began. The first wave of elite runners took off like rockets. The next waves followed. Tom was in wave 8, near the back. When his group started, he settled into a slow, steady pace. Not fast. Maybe a 9-minute mile. Maybe slower. He wasn't trying to win. He was trying to finish, like he had 49 times before. The young Marines from earlier were in wave 3. They started fast. 6.5-minute miles, passing runners left and right. Dylan was leading their group. Jake right behind him. They were strong, well-trained. This wasn't their first marathon. For most of them, it was their third or fourth. They were confident they finished in under 3 hours, maybe even break 2:50. By mile 10, they were feeling good, hydrated, strong. They passed through Georgetown, crowds cheering, signs everywhere, Semper Fi, run, Marines, run, thank you for your service. Jake was grinning. Man, this is easy. We're gonna crush this. Dylan nodded. Sub 3 hours, guaranteed. They didn't see Tom. He was miles behind them. Still moving, still steady. His pace hadn't changed. 9 minutes per mile, almost exactly. Like clockwork. By mile 16, things started to get harder. The young Marines were still strong, but the fatigue was creeping in, legs getting heavier, breathing a little harder. This was the wall everyone talked about, the point where the body starts questioning the mind. Dylan pushed through. Come on, we're Marines. Pain is just weakness leaving the body. They kept going. By mile 20, Marcus was struggling. His left knee was hurting. He tweaked it during training 2 weeks ago and hadn't fully recovered. Guys, I'm slowing down. Go ahead. You sure? Yeah, I'll finish. Just gonna walk some of this. The other 5 kept going, but Dylan noticed Jake was also slowing. His breathing was labored. Jake, you good? Yeah, just need to catch my breath. By mile 22, Jake was in trouble. His face was pale, sweating heavily despite the cool weather. He pushed too hard early, hadn't paced himself, and now his body was shutting down. Dylan grabbed his arm. Bro, talk to me. I'm fine. Just need. By mile 24, Jake collapsed. One moment he was running. The next, his legs gave out. He hit the pavement hard. Other runners swerved around him. A medical volunteer rushed over. Sir, can you hear me? Jake's eyes were open but unfocused. He was conscious but not responsive. The medic checked his pulse, called for a stretcher. Dylan and the other Marines had stopped, circled around. Jake, come on, man. The medic looked up. He's severely dehydrated, possibly hypothermic. We need to get him to medical. Dylan's face was stricken. No. We came here together. We finished together. He can't finish. He needs medical attention. And that's when they heard a voice. Calm. Steady. Step aside. They turned. It was the old man, Tom, the one they'd mocked at the starting line. He was there, not even breathing hard, just standing at the edge of the circle. Dylan stared. What? Tom knelt beside Jake, looked at the medic. What's his condition? Severe dehydration, muscle failure. He needs immediate care. Tom nodded, then looked at Jake. Marine, can you hear me? Jake's eyes flickered, focused slightly. Yeah? Good. I'm gonna get you to the finish line. Understand? Jake tried to shake his head. Can't move. You don't have to. I'm carrying you. Dylan stepped forward. Sir, no offense, but you're 70-something. You can't carry him. He's 190. Tom looked at Dylan. I've carried heavier. Now step back. Tom bent down, hooked his arms under Jake's shoulders, lifted him into a fireman's carry. Jake's body draped over Tom's shoulders. 190 pounds of dead weight. The medic started to protest. Sir, this is dangerous. You could... Tom cut him off. The finish line is 2.2 miles. I've run 49 marathons. I'll make it 50 with him. He looked at Dylan. You coming or not? Dylan nodded, stunned. Yeah, we're coming. Tom started moving, not running, walking, fast, but steady. Jake's weight pressed down on his shoulders. His legs, which had already covered 24 miles, now had to carry an extra 190. But he didn't slow, didn't stop, just kept moving. The other Marines followed. Silent now. No jokes, no bravado, just awe. Spectators along the route started noticing. An old man carrying a young Marine. Word spread. Phones came out. People started filming, cheering. Go, Marine, go! By mile 25, Tom's breathing was heavier. Sweat poured down his face. But his pace hadn't slowed. Still walking, still steady. Dylan ran alongside him. Sir, let us help. We can take turns. Tom shook his head. I've got him. Sir, you've already done more than. I said I've got him. By mile 26, the finish line was in sight. The crowds were massive, thousands of people lining the final stretch, and they were all watching Tom, the 76-year-old man carrying a collapsed Marine. The announcer's voice boomed over the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are wondering what you are seeing, that's Thomas Bradley, age 76. Vietnam veteran, carrying Lance Corporal Jake Morrison across the finish line. This is his 50th marathon. Give them everything you've got. The crowd erupted, screaming, cheering. People were crying. Marines in uniform snapped to attention, saluted. Tom crossed the finish line at 4 hours, 47 minutes, 22 seconds. The moment he did, medical staff rushed forward, took Jake from his shoulders, laid him on a stretcher, started IV fluids. Tom stood there, hands on his knees, breathing hard. But he was smiling. Dylan approached, tears streaming down his face. Sir, we. Tom straightened up, put a hand on Dylan's shoulder. You finish? Yes, sir. Good. That's what matters. Sir, I'm sorry. What we said at the start, we were idiots. Tom shook his head. You're young. You didn't know. Now you do. Jake, now conscious and receiving fluids, looked up from the stretcher. You carried me. Tom knelt beside him. You're a Marine. We don't leave our brothers behind. Not in combat. Not on a marathon course. Semper Fi, son. Jake's voice cracked. Semper Fi, sir. The story went viral. Videos of Tom carrying Jake across the finish line hit 1 million views in 6 hours. News outlets picked it up. 76-year-old veteran carries collapsed Marine across marathon finish line. People magazine, CNN, Fox News. Everyone wanted to interview Tom. He declined most of them, but he did agree to one. A local Virginia news station. The reporter asked, Mr. Bradley, how did you do it, carrying that much weight after 24 miles? Tom smiled. It wasn't that much weight. I've carried more. What do you mean? Vietnam, 1969. I was a combat engineer. We carried wounded men out of ambush zones, through rice paddies, through jungles. Compared to that, Jake was light. And you're still running marathons at 76? This was my 50th. I'll probably do 50 more. As long as my legs work, I'll keep running. What would you say to those young Marines who laughed at you? Tom's expression softened. I'd say they learned something important. Never judge someone by their age. Never assume you're stronger just because you're younger. And never forget that the old guys, we were young once too, and we remember what it took to get where we are. 3 weeks later, Tom received a letter. It was from the Commandant of the Marine Corps, an invitation to speak at Marine Corps Base Quantico to a class of new recruits. Tom accepted. He stood in front of 200 young Marines, told them his story about Vietnam, about marathons, about Jake. You're all strong, you're all capable. But strength isn't just about muscles. It's about endurance, discipline, and never leaving a brother behind. When you're 80 years old, you'll still be Marines. And if someone needs you, I hope you'll still have the strength to carry them. The room was silent. Then one Marine stood, saluted. Then another. Then all 200. Standing ovation. For a 76-year-old man who proved that being a Marine doesn't have an expiration date. Jake Morrison recovered fully. He ran the next Marine Corps marathon, finished in 3:12. And when he crossed the line, Tom was waiting. They hugged, no words needed, because that's what Marines do. They carry each other across finish lines, across battlefields, across life. And they never, ever leave a brother behind. 6 months after the marathon, Jake Morrison requested a transfer. He'd been stationed at Paris Island, but he put in for Quantico, closer to Richmond, closer to Tom. They met every Saturday morning, 6 a.m., at a park halfway between their homes. And they ran, not marathons, just 5 miles, sometimes 6. Tom set the pace, slow, steady. And Jake, who used to mock that pace, now understood its value. You know what I learned that day? Jake said one morning as they jogged along the trail. What's that? That I was running the wrong race. I was trying to prove I was fast. You were trying to prove you could endure, and endurance always wins. Tom nodded. Fast gets you to mile 24, endurance gets you to mile 26. Jake was quiet for a moment. I've been thinking about what you did, why you did it. I told you, Marines don't leave. I know, but it's more than that. You could have let the medics handle me. Could have finished your race, set a PR. But you didn't. You gave up your time, your finish. For me, Tom slowed to a walk, looked at Jake. You want to know the real reason? Yeah, Tom took a breath. In 1969, I was in Vietnam, Khe Sanh. We got hit hard, mortar fire. My squad leader, Staff Sergeant Marcus Webb, took shrapnel to the legs. Couldn't walk. The corpsman was dead, and we were still taking fire. I tried to carry Marcus, but I was 22, panicked, weak. I dropped him, twice. By the time I got him to the aid station, he bled out. Died in my arms. Jake's face went pale. Jesus, Tom. For 54 years, I've lived with that. The weight of knowing I wasn't strong enough when it mattered. So when I saw you on that pavement, all I could see was Marcus. And I thought, not again, not on my watch. That's why I carried you, not because you're a Marine, but because I needed to prove to myself that this time I could finish what I started. Jake's eyes filled with tears. Tom, you were 22, in combat. You did everything you could. Doesn't matter, I failed him, but I didn't fail you. Jake reached out, put his hand on Tom's shoulder. You saved me, in more ways than one. 2 months later, Jake approached Tom with an idea. What if we started something, a program, for young veterans, guys who are struggling, teach them endurance, discipline, through running? Tom considered it. You serious? That serious. We call it Mile 24, because that's where everyone hit the wall, where they think they can't go on. But we teach them they can, with the right support. Tom smiled. I'm in. They launched Mile 24 3 months later, a nonprofit organization that paired young veterans struggling with PTSD, depression, or transition issues with older veteran mentors. They ran together, trained for marathons together. And along the way, they talked, healed, built brotherhood. The first group had 8 young veterans. The second had 23. By the end of the year, they had over 100 participants across 3 states. One of those participants was a Marine named Carlos Rivera, 26 years old, 2 deployments to Afghanistan, came home with nightmares, anger. He'd pushed everyone away. His wife had left. His family didn't know how to help. Tom became his mentor. Every Saturday morning, 5 miles, Carlos would show up angry, run hard, too hard. Tom would slow him down. You're running like you're trying to escape something. Maybe I am. You can't outrun your demons, son. You have to face them. Carlos wanted to quit, multiple times. But Tom wouldn't let him. You show up every week. That's the only rule. I don't care if you walk the whole 5 miles. You show up. Carlos kept showing up. And slowly, mile by mile, the anger started to fade. The nightmares became less frequent. He started talking about the things he'd seen, the friends he'd lost, the guilt he carried. Tom listened, never judged, just listened, and ran beside him. 8 months later, Carlos ran his first marathon. Tom ran beside him the entire way. When Carlos hit mile 24 and wanted to quit, Tom said the same thing he'd said to Jake. I've got you. We finished together. They did. Carlos crossed the finish line crying, not from pain, from relief, from realizing he was going to be okay. 6 months after that, Carlos became a mentor himself, started running with a 23-year-old Army veteran who'd lost his leg in Iraq, taught him the same lesson Tom had taught him. Show up, endure, finish. The program grew. Mile 24 expanded to 15 states, over 500 participants, success stories everywhere. Veterans who'd been suicidal finding purpose, veterans who'd been isolated finding community, all because a 76-year-old man had carried a collapsed Marine across a finish line and reminded everyone what brotherhood really meant. On October 28, 2024, Tom stood at the starting line of the Marine Corps Marathon again. But this time, he wasn't alone. Jake stood beside him. So did Carlos. So did 37 other veterans from Mile 24, all wearing matching gray shirts that read, Mile 24, Endurance, Brotherhood, Finish Together. When the cannon fired, they ran, not fast, not slow, just together. And when they crossed the finish line, all 39 of them crossed at the same time, arms linked. Because that's what the program was about. Not individual achievement, collective strength. Tom finished in 5 hours, 2 minutes, his 51st marathon, his slowest time ever, and he didn't care. Because every single one of his mentees finished. Every single one. Jake hugged him at the finish line. You did it, old man. Tom smiled. We did it. Next year? Next year. And the year after that. And the year after that. Because Marines don't retire. They just find new missions, new brothers to carry, new finish lines to cross. And as long as Tom Bradley could put one foot in front of the other, he'd keep showing up, keep running, keep carrying, because that's what Marines do. They endure, they persevere, and they never, ever leave a brother behind. Not at Mile 24, not at Mile 26, not ever. Semper Fi,